All right, guys, I'm here if you guys are ready.
All right, Jacob Turner, you go ahead, followed by CL Brown.
Hey, Coach, you've obviously faced, Leonard Hamilton coach teams many a times over the years. Is there a common theme, if any, for lack of a better term, amongst his teams that make them so difficult to face and so difficult to play against?
Yes, I mean, they're extremely athletic and talented, but they do a great job of pressuring you. Uh, when I was coaching at Kansas, Leonard had worked with Eddie Sutton a little bit, and I always thought that Eddie Sutton was one of the best defensive coaches in our game. And Leonard took some of those things he got from Coach Sutton and made them somewhat even better in some ways. So I think we always think about how not just gifted they are, but how hard they work defensively. I think that we always wonder if we're ever going to score a basket against them.
CL Brown.
Roy, do you feel like you guys are maybe turning the corner at all in terms of turnovers? It was 8 against, I think, Notre Dame and 11 against Syracuse. I know it went back up against Miami, but do you feel like it's starting to click with the guys?
Well, I think we're getting better, but I don't know that I would say, CL, that we've turned the corner, because just like you said, that one game against Miami was just 2 games ago, and we were terrible in that game. But I know that we're emphasizing it more this year than any team I've ever coached. It's not even close. And we've got to continue to get better. And we're playing a team tomorrow that pressures you better than anybody else in our league, and maybe as well as anybody in college basketball. So it's got to be a major concern for us tomorrow.
Ross Martin.
Hey, Roy, I'm just going to ask about Anthony Harrison. Is there any update on his status ahead of the Florida State game, or just where he is in getting more ready to play?
Well, it's like I told you guys last week. I mean, this last week was the first time he's gone full court. And I dressed him the other night just so he could warm up, just so he could get more reps kind of thing. But it's not going to be – I don't have a date on the calendar marked with an X that says I'm going to play Anthony here. You just got to give the kid the fair shake of running up and down the court enough. I mean, you can't go from doing nothing full court for a year and then all of a sudden practice full court 2 days and play a game. So we've got to be a little patient ourselves. I know it's hard for you guys because you always want something different, but when we feel like that he can help us and not hurt himself, we'll put him in the game. But I'm not at that point today. I may be today after practice. I don't know. I mean, there's no clear-cut thing. You just got to see how the guy practices and see if he's going to run up and down the court 3 times in a row and feel like he needs an oxygen tank. So it's going to be time. I've told you, we're not going to surprise anybody and drop him down from a freaking parachute into a game. He's taking his steps. And but again, you guys think about how you would be if some of you work out, some of you don't work out. But if you don't do anything for a freaking year, you're not going to get in the Boston Marathon.
Greg Barnes.
Hey, Roy, you've talked about the impact of not having some of those preseason opportunities like an exhibition or a close scrimmage. And it seems like every other day we're getting notice from the ACC that a game has been postponed. Just curious, what do you think the impact of these scheduling disruptions have been on maybe the quality of the game thus far?
Greg, I think it's a tremendous impact mentally on the coaching staff, but even more so on the kids. I can't remember. I feel like I talk to you guys every other day, but I can't remember if I told you this, but the other day at the end of our practice, we get on the inline and run winners and losers sprints, and then we stretch. And then across from our bench, we spread out chairs and everybody goes and sits down, and we give them some ideas of what happened in practice and give them the next day's schedule. And so the other day, 2 or 3 days ago, I forget what it was, I told the guys to hit the chairs, and I was staying on the other end talking to our staff, and I started walking back over to them, and every player's just staring at me with their eyes wide open. And I said, guys, we're okay. And I think it was Anthony said every time he sees us standing there talking before coming back over, he feels like something's been canceled or postponed or whichever terminology you want to use. So it really is hard on the kids not knowing. And I mean, even yesterday we practiced, and at the end of practice, they come and get me and say that North Carolina State had a positive, and they don't know how that affected Florida State since they just played Florida State the day before. And so it's mentally, it's hard on everybody, the coaching staff, but particularly the players too, because they love to play, and they hate for me to say it. And I've only had to say it twice so far that we've had a game that's been canceled, and we're going to see what we can do. So it's the unknown, but I do think that in some ways that's had an impact on how consistently you play. We went through a stretch early in the summer, or late in the summer, excuse me, and early preseason where we're missing guys 10 days here, 14 days there. And it's been unsettling, but the thing about it is it's been the same for everybody.
Vashti?
Hi, Coach. I'm sure you, or at least in your scouting, saw the game against North Carolina State where Florida State shot 70% from the floor. They had 11 guys, I think, on the scoring board. Can you talk about their depth and possible matchup challenges that they'll present?
If they shoot 70% tomorrow, they're going to beat us to death too. It's a pretty easy deal there. They were phenomenal. I did watch the whole game because we had played Tuesday night and they played Wednesday, and it was an impressive show. But their depth is something that Leonard always plays like I try to do. He does an even better job of it, but they've always had depth. And last year they won the regular season. And I've always felt like winning the regular season was the toughest thing there is. And again, I started as an assistant coach here when there were only 7 teams in the ACC. Now there's 15, and you're playing 20 games. And so you have to be at a high level for a long time to win the regular season. And I think the year before they were second or third or something like that. So they've had a tremendous run here, and I think capped off by winning the regular season last year. But their game against North Carolina State was about as impressive as any team I've seen in the ACC.
Kip?
Yeah, Roy, good morning. Have the coaches discussed the postponements and at what stage they're not going to be able to make up games and just accept that teams are going to have varying levels of participation as far as the standings go?
You know, Kip, we had all those conference calls throughout the entire summer on Wednesdays, and it's the most conversations we've ever had. So we discussed everything you can possibly imagine, including the fact that some teams are going to have different number of games played than others, and not knowing what was going to come up. We don't know what's going to come up tomorrow. I mean, the cases in the entire country are spiking and going so high, it's scary as it can possibly be. But we did have those discussions, and the bottom line is that you have to be able to adapt. It would have been nice if we'd had an extra week. I was talking to Lon Kruger last night from Oklahoma, and they built in an open week at the end of the season before their conference tournament, just in case they had games postponed, that they would try to get some of those played again during that time. Our office chose not to do that, and whatever reasons they were, I'm sure they thought it was best, but everybody had a quote bye week, which ours was supposed to have been last week. But so we've discussed it and talked about it, but there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, I'm serious, guys. At the end of practice yesterday, for a little while, we didn't even know if we were going to play this weekend, and because you just have to wait till you get that information. But again, I'll say it this way: it's the same for everybody.
Royal Howell?
Hello, Coach. What improvements have you seen from your team in practice this week following the win against Syracuse that you think will reflect on the court tomorrow? Like, is there a specific player that you've seen bust their tail on the court that you think and you hope that will straight up produce tomorrow on the court?
Well, we've as of right now, we've only had one practice since the Syracuse game. We gave them Wednesday off and we practiced yesterday, but I don't know that one practice jumping out at you is going to change what they've done the first 50. I think we're at number 55 or 56 today. But I think our team is trying to get better every week, and we're probably emphasizing again taking care of the basketball, making easy plays so we don't turn it over more than we emphasize anything else. And then the next thing would be the quality of our shot selection, because we haven't shot it well. Part of it's because ball just hadn't gone in the basket, but the other part is we've taken bad shots. And so I don't know that I can pick out one guy in practice one day. It makes me feel about the game on Saturday with more positive thoughts. Most of the time, you have a great practice and then you have one not quite as good, and maybe you have another good one, but that changes each and every day.
I got time for 3 last questions. Brendan, then Josh Graham, then Alyssa. Brendan, Josh, Alyssa. Go ahead, Brendan.
Hey, Coach, thanks for taking the time to do this. I wanted to sort of jump off of Kip's question. I was just wondering, obviously the Atlantic 10 the other day moved their conference tournament out of Barclays, and it sounds like they're going to be doing on an on-campus location. I was just wondering if you or the coaches or the ACC in general had reached out and had any conversations about what the conference tournament will look like this year, and if they're still dedicated to having one for certain.
Well, I would assume that they're still dedicated to having one. It's a major event in the Atlantic Coast Conference and has been forever. It's a very good thing for us financially, and in the situation everybody's in, I would think that we were never even considered not having it. But other than that, we haven't had any discussions as coaches about that. Usually if the ACC has some things they want us to think about, they'll tell us, and they've been normally very good about that. But I would assume that we're going to play it. And but again, we as coaches have not had any specific discussions about what it looks like now as compared to what it was going to look like in June, July, and August when we were having all those conversations.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Josh?
Hey, Coach, because of the age bracket that you're in, have you had any plans to get vaccinated to this point? And I know how public you've been about encouraging people to wear masks. There's a discussion among those in the state trying to encourage people to get the vaccine. Is this something that you've been thinking about as well?
Yeah, and I wear my mask all the time. I don't do it now because there's nobody in the room except Clint, and he's 10 feet away and has his mask on. But I think I do a very good job of keeping mine on during the games. I think I try to do a better job of that than a lot of the other guys that I see because I'm afraid of it. I think it's something that we should be aware that we're going to need to do it for several months, maybe years, who knows. But so that part has been something I'll continue doing. I even wear my mask during Christmas time when I'm around our grandchildren. So, and that's the hardest thing to do. Keeping my mask on during a freaking game is the easiest thing in the world compared to that. But yes, when they tell me that I can get the vaccine, I'm going to get it. I'm trying to find out when I can get it right now. They just changed the rule this week. I'm 70, and so I wasn't eligible to get it until they changed, I guess, on, I don't know, Tuesday or Wednesday, that they went down to 65. And so I'm looking forward to getting it, and I'll take it as quickly as I possibly can because I believe in our scientists, our medical people, and the professional people, and I'll do it as quickly as I possibly can.
Last question, Alyssa.
Coach, you have some depth in the front court this year. Does that help at all with matchups when you face a team as big as Florida State?
Well, I saw one of the earlier games. I forget who they were playing. I was watching the other team at that point, and they said that Florida State was the biggest team in the NCAA Division I. And then I saw in their notes this morning they've gotten shorter because now they're the 4th tallest team, and it's hard to figure out how that happened. But I know they're big, and we do have some depth up front, just like they do. They play even more people than we do, but we do have some things we like what our big guys do, and we're going to try to continue doing those. We think with Garrison and Dayron and Armando and Walker Kessler, we've got 4 guys who can impact the game in a positive way. And so we need to try to make sure that if that's our strength of our team, we need to make sure that that's an important part of the game. But they've got, I think, 2 guys who are over 7 feet, and Koprivica is really, really good. And I thought he was a very effective for him in the past, but the way he's played lately, I just think he's really, really good. He's shooting like 60% from the floor. And then he's not only tall, he's long. And so our guys, you know, Dayron and Walker Kessler don't have quite the experience that he does, but Garrison probably has more. So it has got to be an important factor for us, yes.
Coach, thank you. I know you got to get on to practice. Thanks, everybody, for Zooming in. Have a good weekend.